Today we have Opcast number 4 with the famous Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman on killing, on combat, on spiritual combat. What's going on, sir? How are you today?
Hello, Steve.
Thanks for
My
jumping on.
My fellow warrior wordsmith. You know, you got your book going, and life is good, brother. I got a book coming out. You can get it from me now. It's out from Amazon in March on hunting.
Talk to us about it. What was your inspiration for that?
Well, let's talk about this. You know, you and I talked ahead of time, and we kind of laid down a path.
Yeah.
How you make that transition from veteran to author.
Yes, that's the topic today.
I've never really talked about that before. I've done gobs of podcasts.
How many have you done? Maybe a couple, like 100 or something?
I don't keep track of them. They're probably, during the pandemic, it was kind of all you could do, that and write, So I wrote 2 books and did 100 podcasts, but I love podcasts. I love the format. I love the fact that you don't want just a 5-minute soundbite.
Right.
You want deeper knowledge. The podcast revolution is just pushing away from the whole soundbite, shallow mindset, and breeding a group of individuals who want more information, they want to dig in deep. And I think it's a real great thing in our civilization. One of the very few rays of light and hope out there is that the podcast revolution, that people want deeper answers. And so you asked the question up front. I think a good place to start. How do you make the transition from a soldier to an author? I enlisted the 82nd Airborne Division, 1974. And I've always wanted to ask the question that nobody else asks. I always wanted to get the information nobody else would get. So we're in 74, and we had Vietnam veterans all around us. And we wanted to know what combat was going to be like. What's it going to be like? And they wouldn't say. It's like this taboo topic. And it's really crazy. And that just kind of drove me crazy. And so, fast forward, I went to OCS, got a couple of years of college on the Army's time, infantry company commander, and all the staff jobs. And then I picked up to teach at West Point. And en route to West Point, I'm going to graduate school. And, I'm not a West Point grad, but my time there was awesome. It was a neat thing.
Sure.
And, the question, I thought, I have to do a graduate thesis. I'm going to do it on killing. I'm going to home into the core of this business that nobody else will look at. Now, look, my war was the Cold War. I came in 74 and got out in 97. Our great achievement, the Russians never came across that border. We beat these benefits, without having to fight. But that was decade after decade of vigilance and preparation and staying on combat status for decade after decade, ready for the Russians to come across the border. That was my war. I haven't killed anybody, but people that did. And so I began en route to teach at West Point. I began to conduct interviews of Vietnam vets and World War II vets. And I would present to a World War II reunion and then conduct surveys and interviews. So I really talked to hundreds of vets. And, and this is the key. Now, this is where the scholarship comes in. This is where the advice on a book comes in. If Masters and Johnson, if a neighbor said, "Hey, Steve, how's sex going for you? How are you and the wife getting on? What do you like?"
Right. Yeah. Just opening up with that.
Yeah, but imagine if Masters and Johnson or some scholarly organization, as part of sound scholarship, came to the same questions.
Sure.
You might tell them. You might even tell them the truth.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and that was on killing. And I interviewed hundreds of people about their experiences killing in combat. Now, most of the people in this war have never killed anybody.
Right.
The majority just never have. They're the very tip of the spear. Even people like, I know a guy with 9 combat tours, never killed anybody. He's, he chopped an ODA for 9 deployments, 6-month deployments, and never killed anybody. It's like freaking Mother Teresa. Anywhere I show up, where peace breaks out.
Yep.
But the way to get the information is ask the question to a lot of people. Ask a lot of people. And so I wrote my master's thesis. I did more interviews, I did more surveys, and my master's thesis became a book, and the book was on killing. And every paper I did in graduate school was focused on weaving it into my book, weaving it into my graduate. In the end, I turned in 1 chapter of the book for my graduate thesis because I didn't want the Army to say they owned it, right? They paid for it. and the rest of my book. And so then I found a literary agent. And back in the day, the literary agents were the guardians of the gate. The publisher wouldn't look at anything that didn't come through a literary agent.
Huh.
And the agent wouldn't take anything that they didn't think they could sell. So the guardians of the gate were these lit agents, and you sent them a one-page query letter. And it was said at the time, you know, it's not your book that's going to get you this big advance. It's a one-page query letter. And the best authors in the world just spaz when they try to put it all in one page, you know. So I presented this to a couple of lit agents, and one of them picked up on it, kind of a story there. And he's been my literary agent ever since for over 30 years now, Richard Curtis. And sometimes I use him, sometimes not, you know, because he's going to own 15% of everything I do from now until forever. His descendants get 15% of everything I get. You know, my grandkids will get 85% of everything I did, but then it's better to have 85% of a lot
than
100% of nothing. I would have nothing without the agent. Yeah. So it went back to the publisher, and there was actually kind of a bidding war for this book. And one of the publishers that I ended up with, they came to me and said, "Are you willing to listen to advice? Are you willing to work? Because we think if we work with this, we'll turn this into a really great book." And I said, a piece of scripture, you know, I do him the man of authority. I say to one, go and he goeth, another company cometh, you know, Jesus and the centurion, and I her out 3 bags full. So they got the book, and a nice little advance, and the advance is not that big a deal. It's all they're doing is paying your royalties up front. You don't get any royalties until the advance gets paid off, right? But and so they had a great editor, and when I found out what the editor is, I didn't have to do everything he said. I changed, you know, about 15% the way he said, another 40% I just kind of took a shot at, and the rest of my left the way it was. And it was fine. It's ultimately your book, and you got to listen to this guy, but you got to put it through a filter. You're the author,
right? And
so the book came out in '95. I didn't get out of the Army until '97. Actually '98, out terminal leave on '97, and the book was already out. And I had people who were asking me to come and speak and come and present, right? So I ended up, before the war, before 2001, the only people in combat every day is law enforcement. The only people out there.
That's a good point.
Is law enforcement. So I'm out here teaching these guys. I'm teaching all these federal agents and all these other folks. And then the war began, and I'm teaching Navy SEALs and Tier 1 guys. I thought, who the hell am I to teach these guys, you know? But what I found out was, the more elite the organization, the more they wanted to hear what you had to give. And they kept bringing me back and bringing me back. But what happened was, my presentation evolved. What I found out was, you know, and today I have talked to more people who've been in combat than anybody in human history, by far.
Sure.
You know, just give you an idea. You know, we talk about coins. You know, we talk about coins. I'll give you an idea here.
Oh, can't wait to see this. Here we go.
There's kind
the
of
coin room.
Yeah, there's some of the coins, but look, you know, over here.
Oh my goodness.
Another wall, and a decade ago, that just represents 10 years worth. A decade ago, we just stopped putting them up on the wall. We ran out of walls.
Now you have a bag.
That's exactly right. We got a box. I cherish every one of them. They're all important, but I think I've got the largest coin collection in private hands, you know, in the world, and that comes back to teaching all these people. So the question was, what's combat going to be like? For an 18-year-old kid in World War II, for an 18-year-old draftee in Vietnam, killing was a big deal. What I found out was, for those who fully prepared themselves, for a mature individual who's using deadly force lawfully to protect their friends and others, just not that big a deal.
Right.
And there's people, you know, the anti-cop people that they've been attacking me. I'm America's #1 law enforcement trainer, and I've been like the #1 target for all these guys. And one thing, Grossman says you'll kill somebody and be just fine. Well, what do you want to do? You want, you know, one and done?
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
what are the options?
Throw them away. You know, the kids in World War II were not destroyed by what they had to do. We don't want them to be destroyed. Some have a problem, but most don't.
Right.
And so I evolved in my second book on combat. And On Combat was self-published. And I basically did it myself and fulfilled it on Amazon and didn't have to go through an agent, and it all worked out great. I did the narration for my books, and it's crazy because in a lot of places the audio is outselling the other copy of my book. And I don't know any other author like that, but people kind of tune into the voice. They want to hear more from Grossman. I was at 29 Palms Marine Base in California just before a big presentation to battalion of Marines in the base theater, ready to punch out to Iraq.
Yeah.
And I'm in the head, the latrine, whatever, you know, and I'm at the pisser, talking to the guy next to me, and a voice comes out of one of the toilet stalls. Said, "I know that voice."
What a perfect place for that. Quite intimate at 100 and something degrees in the porta potty.
Yeah, but here's the key now. Here's the key is all these anything ever done in the book, anything ever done on this subject, nobody asked the people who were there. I
Right.
can show you a couple of books that they wrote on combat, on killing, and they're duds. They're useless. Number one, read every book on the subject.
Right.
That's the foundation. And then here's the glorious thing. You can take up to 10% out of any book and use it in your book. You know, like there's this great wealth of incredibly beautifully crafted words you integrate in. People tell me they read on killing, they read on combat. They tell me their eye is kind of skipping ahead, looking for the next indented paragraph, because they know it's going to be something really cool.
That's great.
And you get the best thing, and then you conduct interviews. I was at a shooting thing a little while back, and a championship shooter is there, you know, world class shooter, and he trains Delta Force. And I said, you know, I was going for headshots, and he said, "Well, in combat, you never make a headshot." I thought, "Oh, why?" "Oh, one of these Delta Force operators said he's given up and tried to make headshots in combat, and so you just want to ever be able to do it." Oh, how many people did you ask? What was the range? What was the weapon? Did you ask other people the same question? You know, this isn't science. This is freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'll give you gunfight after gunfight where cops made a headshot and finished them off. I'll give you, you know, when I was in the martial arts as a kid, you'll never get kicked in the crotch more than once. Once you get kicked in the balls, from that point on, you'll automatically bullshit. You know? There's always somebody faster than you. There's always somebody going to slip through your block. Wear a freaking cup.
Yeah, that's right.
You will get kicked in the balls again. So it's about scholarship. It's about asking as many people as you can. It's about reading every book on this subject. So then we had a couple other books. We did Assassination Generation on what's going on with violent crime. I invited to the White House. I was personally gave a copy to President Trump, slid it across the table at the White House, bumped his glass. I bumped the president's water glass. And it was cool. And then invited the White House again.
Did it fall over?
Yeah, no, just bumped it and sloshed.
Okay.
President's water glass. You know, so then I briefed Vice President Pence, gave him a copy of the book again, Assassination Generation. But a couple of kids' books in there that are fun. The Sheepdog Kids book, Why Mommy Carries a Gun, is one of the kids' books, intentionally provocative. I mean,
Love it.
Somebody get on the New York Times and attack this book, you know, Why Mommy Carries a Gun. But on spiritual combat, and a book called Bulletproof Marriage, both of them Christian Book Award finalists. And then on hunting. And on hunting, we got this little triumvirate, if you will, on killing, on combat, and on hunting. And you cannot understand mankind. You cannot understand who we are and what we are without understanding those three. Just kind of tie this together in a little break point we got here. If evolutionary wise, if you look at the existence of our species as 24 hours, right up until the last 6 minutes, all we ever did was hunt.
Right.
We evolved for it. We're bred for it. We're trained for it. And there's so much more. I'll talk about that on reference on killing, you know, they can tie it together. Does that all kind of make sense?
It absolutely does, sir. I just want to let the audience know that, you know, we're going to just take a pause because it's for LinkedIn. It's 15 minutes. So if you guys want to hear the rest of the cast, the opcast with Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman, and the topic is, you know, the authorship and kind of his journey from veteran up through the author he is now, then you can just check us out on our channel. We'll just pick up where we left off. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you asked about on hunting. great question. Let's kind of wrap up with that because it brings a good point that it's really good to have a co-author. After my first book, almost everything I've written had a co-author. And I love the process of bouncing ideas of back and forth between energetic and positive individuals. You got your own audience right there. So we bounce things back and forth. Man, I love this. All right, that's not so good. I like that. Let's do this. And every co-author has a different relationship, and every one of them more fun. There's one of our great military skills is the ability to integrate ourselves with somebody else. To find a great, powerful author and to team with and run with. I co-authored with a guy and a couple of those spiritual Christian-based books, and he's off doing his own stuff now, and I kind of helped him launch, and that was cool, And but we're on hunting. The only place, in combat, you don't hear the shots.
Right.
And hunters will tell you you don't hear the shots. Now, that cutout is in the nerve. The ear is still being hammered. Wear hearing protection when you hunt. You be deaf old geezer like me. I never hear the shots when I hunt. I don't have to worry about my ears. Yes, you do. But why is it that the only thing that you can do that will consistently tap into the same physiological responses as combat is hunting? And you got to understand, hunting is who we are and what we do. If we go from an evolutionary standpoint, if the existence of our species was 24 hours, up until the last 6 minutes, all we did is hunt. It's what we're wired to. It's what we're bred for. We are daylight sight hunters. Now, we have the chiseled teeth of a rabbit, and we have the crap yourself, run like hell response of a fleeing prey. We have the gripping fangs of a predator and the forward-set eyes of a predator. We also have the grinding molars of a grass eater that says, I don't have to outrun the predator. I just have to outrun the slowest guy in the pack.
That's right.
And we've got the neurons for all of them. We have been in the middle of the food chain up until very recently. It's no fun to be prey. We want to be predator.
Right.
So under what circumstance across thousands of years would it have been useful to shut out the sounds? Every predator, dogs, wolves, tigers, lions, use sound as a weapon. You've been in the front end of a dog when he really lets go for that fierce, ferocious, I'm going to bite your throat out. Whoa, and the lion is even more so. The lion, the tiger, they have this harmonious, multi-dynamic, stunning roar. And when you're the guy standing here holding a spear, to be able to tune out that roar would be an enormously valuable skill.
And the pain, like if something goes wrong, the pain and the sound is off.
Bingo, exactly right. So you can't understand mankind without understanding hunting. And it's the ecology, hunters, in America, the model is there that our duck stamps and our deer stamps and our hunting license pay for all this preservation, all this wildness. And Ducks Unlimited and programs to preserve wildlife. And around the world, when they tell the natives of a tribe, every critter around belongs to you, and that crazy American who will come and pay $100,000, kill that lion, who's at the end of his life cycle anyway. Oh, by the way, death by old age in nature is a horrible, hideous death.
Way bad. Yeah. People don't realize the land management portion of that. Obviously, we know that in our nonprofit. And so
crazy American who will pay to shoot that lion, and that pays for all the game warden you could ever need.
All the anti-poaching units are literally paid by a portion sliced away from the PHs and the private hunters and so forth. So
you know all about it.
You know what's cool, sir, is I just thought about it is, on hunting almost needs to be read before on killing because because it's kind of the preface for the next level, which is there's man versus nature, man versus himself, and man versus man, right? So
and it's all about so kind of a great opportunity to share some stuff with a fellow warrior wordsmith, the idea of cooperation, the idea, so many different things we can do. But on that note, if we'll tie it up and
yep.
I wish you
Sure, it was awesome having you. We're going to drop this in a couple different areas. I'll obviously have the links to the books and we'll watch for the engagement and I'm really just honored to have you on. I just kind of kicked this off and to have you so early and to talk about a topic that you haven't talked about before,
Well,
which is
yeah. And
super
just
rare.
I've heard this expression for writers. It's not a bad expression. A page a day is a book a year. Not so hard to write
That's
one
true.
page. Not
That's a
that
big
hard.
book, 360. Yeah,
A
that's
page a day is a
actually,
book a
and most
year.
books I think are like
Yeah,
220 pages or so.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's easy to say. Like most things, it ain't so easy to do.
sure.
But it's a goal to kind of set for yourself to keep you going. Write that book and then bounce it off of people and rewrite it and work on it. And it's like, we know about op orders and constantly refining letters LOI and refining your LOI and getting somebody else's. And, in the military, they say plagiarism is the highest form of flattery. You want to use my op ord? Want to use my LOI?
Yeah.
Great.
Especially if it
And
was successful, right? If the mission
bingo.
went well, and
Yeah.
the op orders maybe once the bullets are flying might be 10 to 15% of what takes place, but it's a framework, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Same
awesome.
thing, same thing with writing. Understand that you can understand fair use is about 10% of any book, no more than about 200 words in a block, and take all the good stuff that's already out there and weave it in. And that's fair use. And
That
it's
just
it's
makes
an
it, yeah.
honor.
That portion is actually gold, sir, because
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I didn't know that, and that really kind of takes some of the pressure off of you having to be this ultimate expert
Yeah.
in this topic, and you're
But
trying to be, but it's
oh,
actually better to almost be the master integrator of the information.
oh, that's our military skill, brother. That's what we
That's
do.
awesome.
Hurrah.
Awesome, sir. Well,
It's
it was great
combined arms
having you.
warfare.
I'm gonna stop the recording and say goodbye to the audience, but then I'll obviously keep it going for us. So great having you, sir.
My pleasure, my honor.